ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते जयपताका स्वामिनिति नामिने नामाचार्यपादाय नित्यकृपाप्रदायिने गौरगाधा गामदाय नगरग्रामातारिणे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूप स्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद। Hare Krishna, Prabhujis and Matajis, please bless me so that I'll speak the right words according to the text given following the parampara. Hare Krishna. So my set of verses allotted for me are from Chaitanya Charitamrta, Adilila, chapter 13, verse from 80 onwards. Actually, last week Sripada Mataji has glorified the advent of Vishwarupa and how Advaita Acharya prayed, because we know one of the reason why external reason why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advented in this material world is Advaita Acharya, on the plea of Advaita Acharya. So I'll continue from text number 80. Chauda Sata Chaya Shakhe Sesha Maga Mase Jagannatha Sachira Dehe Krishnera Praveshe. In the month of January, in the year 1406 of the Shakha era, Lord entered the womb of heart of Sachimata and Jagannatha Mishra. Okay. So a very small purport, I'll just read. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his birth in the year 1407 Shakha era in the month of Falguna. But here we see that he entered the bodies of his parents in the year 1406 in the month of Magha. Therefore, the Lord entered the bodies of his parents 13 full months before his birth. Generally, a common child remains within the womb of his mother for 10 lunar months. But here we see that the Lord remained within the body of his mother for 13 months. Okay, so I'll just read this particular verse also and I'll say whatever the extra points I feel. Mishra kahe sachi sthane dekhi ana rite jyotirmaya deha geha lakshmi adishtite. Jagannatha Mishra said to Sachi Mata, I see wonderful things. Your body is effulgent and it appears as if the goddess of fortune were now staying personally in my home. So here Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami is mentioning that Lord appeared 1 year before. Appeared in the sense Lord entered the womb of Sachi Mata and Jagannatha Mishra. So 1 year before. And it is also mentioned that Lord stayed for 13 months. Generally, we stay for 9 months or hardly 10 months. Okay, it depends upon the child. But Lord stayed for 13 months. And actually, how does Lord appear in this material world? Also, it is explained in Bhagavad Gita 4.6. Lord says in the Transcendental knowledge, saying that although api ajo api aveyatma bhutanam ishvaro api prakritim swam abhishtaya sambhavami atma maya. So as we take birth according to our karma, So based upon our karma, we get that particular body and we enter that particular womb of a mother and a father. Okay, but here Lord, he appears by his own internal potency. That's what it said in the translation, that although I am unborn, and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, still I appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. That is Atma Maya. Prabhupada gives the translation as by my internal energy. So that is the difference between us and the Lord. Further, in this particular verse, in the 82nd verse, it is mentioned that Jagannatha Mishra is saying to Sachi Mata that I see wonderful things. Okay, actually, further Prabhupada gives the explanation when we go to 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 2nd chapter. Okay, where where the demigods come and pray to Lord Sri Krishna. Even the same thing happens to Devaki Mata also. Her face glows effulgently because Lord has entered into her womb. So that's what it is. Even Jagannatha Mishra is also mentioning that I feel that goddess of fortune is now staying personally in my home. So that is the realization of Jagannatha Mishra. We all know that who is Jagannatha Mishra, because Jagannatha Mishra is a great devotee of the Lord, even he's also present in the spiritual world. Further, Yahan Tahan Sarvaloka Karaya Samana Ghare Pathaye Deya Dhana Vastra Dana. And wherever and everywhere I go, all people offer me respect. Even without my asking, they voluntarily give me riches, clothing, and paddy. So here Prabhupada explains in detail how does a Brahmana, what are the qualifications of a Brahmana, and what is the work which is done by the Brahmanas. Actually, when we see in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 13th verse, Lord has divided, saying that Chaturvarna Maya Sushta Guna Karma Vibhagasaha. So in that, Lord has created Chaturvarna, that is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. And in 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in detail, it is explained that what does a Brahmana do, what are the qualifications of a Brahmana, and what are the qualifications of a Kshatriya, Vaishya, and everything. So in that, the qualifications of a Brahmana have been explained. I'll just read that particular verse saying that, okay, in the 18th chapter, 42nd verse, so it is mentioned that Samo Damas Tapas Saucham Shantir Arjavam Evacha Jnanam Vijnanam Ashritam Brahma Karma Swabhavajam. So these are the natural qualities by which a Brahmana works, that is peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. So here, that's what here Jagannatha Mishra is mentioned, saying that everyone is giving me everything, because what is the actual main natural duty which is done by the Brahmanas is that they guide the other 3 varnas, that is the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. And Brahmanas are given such a level, so they are actually taken care by the kings, because kings, they always want some advice, so Brahmanas advise them. So they are not at all, Brahmanas are not in a position to accumulate lot of money. Okay, they always want only that much amount of money which is needed for them to sustain. So they don't want more than that. So in relation to that, there is a small connection which I can say related to 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the story of the Brahmanas and Prithu Maharaj father, that is Vena. Okay, so when Vena was killed, because we all know that Vena was an impious king, so he was killed by the potential power of the Brahmanas' words. But even though after this Vena king was killed, the Brahmanas were not at all in a stage of accumulating lot of wealth by taking the position. So they created, they chanted the name of the Lord, so that Prithu Maharaj, who is a Shakti Avaisha of the Lord, could take birth. So that is the stage of the Brahmanas. They don't like to accumulate lot of wealth. Okay, the same thing it is also mentioned here by Srila Prabhupada. So here in the second part, Jagannatha Mishra is saying that Prabhupada is mentioning that he was a Brahmana, therefore people would send him all bodily necessities. So that is what we have seen. And while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the womb of Sachi Mata, Jagannatha Mishra received all these necessities of life without asking for them. Because of the presence of the Lord in his family, everyone is offered him to due respect as a Brahmana. In other words, if a Brahmana or a Vaishnava sticks to his position as an eternal servant of the Lord and executes the will of the Lord, there is no question of scarcity for his personal maintenance or the need for his family. Even in Ishopanishad also it is mentioned that Ishavashyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita, means whatever portion you are supposed to enjoy accumulated money, so that will be provided by the Lord. So for that we need not go and grab from others. So that is what even it is mentioned in the Ishopanishad. Okay, so I'll go for the further verse. Sachi kahe muni dekho akashe upare divya murti loka sabha yena stuti kare. Sachi Mata told her husband, I see wonderfully brilliant human beings appearing in the outer space as if offering prayers. Purport. Jagannatha Mishra was honored by everyone on the earth and was supplied with all the necessities. Similarly, Mother Sachi saw many demigods in the outer space offering prayers to her because of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's presence in her womb. Okay, so this is what. So whenever Lord appears in his pure devotee, so as to enjoy or to reciprocate with his pure devotees, so even the demigods or the devatas from the outer space, they also come and pray to the Lord. That's what even Sachi Mata felt when Lord was in her womb. Further, Jagannatha Mishra kahe swapane ye dekhila Jyotirmaya dhama mora hridaya pasila. Jagannath Mishra then replied, in a dream I saw the effulgent body of the Lord enter my heart. Okay, let me read the next verse also. Amara hridaya haite gela tomara hridaye hena bhuje janmi bena kona mahasaye. From my heart, it entered your heart. I therefore understand that a great personality will soon take birth. Okay. Eta bali dunhe rahe harashita hana Salagrama seva kare visesha kariya. After this conversation, both husband and wife were very jubilant, and together they rendered service to the household Salagrama-shila. So, but before to this, in these two verses, in verse number 85 and 84 and 85, so Jagannath Mishra is saying that an effulgent, I saw effulgent abode of the Lord entering my heart, and from my heart it entered to your heart. That is Jagannath Mishra is speaking. So, further, if I'm not wrong, in the 87th verse, actually, Prabhupada gives a very detailed explanation that what is the difference between a person who takes mundane birth and for a devotee when Lord appears into his body or the womb. So what is the difference? Prabhupada explains that in that particular place. We will just recollect the main points. So actually, in the 86th verse, so here they were, doing the deity worship of Salagrama-shila. So Prabhupada explains that actually in olden days, so all the Brahmanas, they used to have a Salagrama-shila and they used to worship. So in the Brahmana cult. And actually, I heard in many of the lectures and it is said that whoever worships Salagrama-shila within 10 kilometers of radius, everyone will be purified and they will be in a good auspicious mood. That's what it is mentioned. But Prabhupada further explains that people who are Brahmana caste, who are born in a Brahmana family must worship only Salagrama-shila. Why? Because there are some vidhi which we are supposed to follow while taking care of Salagrama-shila. It is not so easy. Just as we take, when we do some deity worship also, there are some vidhi which we are supposed to follow. And if we don't understand and if we don't know what is the pattern which we are supposed to follow, then we may be committing a mistake. So that's what it is said that only Brahmanas in those days, because they have the knowledge, so they only could follow the vidhi in a proper way. And further, Prabhupada is saying that with the progress, unfortunately, with the progress of Kali Yuga, the Brahmanas, although very proud of taking birth in a Brahmana family, no longer worshipping Salagrama-shila. Okay, so we know that actually there are two types, Dvijasreshta and Dvijabandhu. Dvijasreshta means one who was born in a, for example, if he is born in a Brahmana family, he belongs to that particular hierarchy, means he will take care of, he will try to improve his knowledge. In that way, he will try to be in that particular varna in which he has taken birth. On the other side is the Dvija Bandhu or Brahma Bandhu. Dvija Bandhu in the sense, he may be born in a Brahmana family, but he doesn't have the qualities of a Brahmana, which is mentioned in the 18th chapter, the 42nd verse. So that's what it is. Prabhupada is mentioning that even though people are born in a Brahmana family, they don't know what is the Vedic Vidhi which we are supposed to follow, and they stopped worshipping Salagrama-shila. But Prabhupada is further mentioning that, but actually it has been a custom since time immemorial that a person born in a Brahmana family must worship Salagrama-shila. So Prabhupada further is saying that in our Krishna consciousness movement, some of the members are very anxious to introduce the worship of Salagrama-shila, but we have purposefully refrained from introducing it because most of the members of Krishna consciousness movement do not originally come from the Brahmana caste. Okay, so further Prabhupada says, after some time when we find that they are actually situated in the line of Brahminical behavior, Salagrama-shila worship will be introduced, because we know we have two types of initiation. First is the initial initiation, then we go for the Brahmanical initiation. So when in the Brahmanical initiation, actually the devotee, he is given a chance. If he wants to worship Salagrama-shila, then only he can do, because we have seen our society is such a society that people may not be born in a Brahmana family, he may be born in any other, but he can become a devotee, and by progressing in his sadhana, when he comes to that particular state, then he, by the guidance of his Siksha Guru or Diksha Guru, then he can take the worship of a Salagrama-shila. But the Prabhupada is saying that in this age of Kali, because we know for every yuga there is a yuga dharma which we are supposed to follow, just like in Satya Yuga sacrifice, and Treta Yuga it is what you say. Sorry, in Satya Yuga is meditation, Treta Yuga it is sacrifice, and in Dwapar Yuga it is deity worship, and in Kali Yuga we all know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us saying that Nama Sankirtana. So the injunction of the Shastra is Hare Nama Eva Kevalam Kalo Nasteva Gatir Anyatha. So in this age of Kali, so there is no other thing, only we have to chant the name of the Lord. So this is the Kali Yuga or Kali Yuga Dharma. Even it is mentioned that Lord Krishna came in the form of a Nam, Kalikala Nama Rupe Krishna Avatara. So we should chant. So always they say that even though you do much of other sevas, but out of 100%, 99% should be given for our chanting, and 1% can be given for the deity worship. So our chanting should be in a proper way. So what kind of chanting is good, and what are the different categories of chanters? So that we'll see in the later verses. So even in Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto, in the 5th chapter, Karbajana Muni, so who is the son of Rishabhadeva, he also says that Krishna Varnam Tisa Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parshadam Yajna Sankirtana Prayer. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's advent in this material world is to instruct the Yuga Dharma. What is that Yuga Dharma? Chanting the name of the Lord. So further Prabhupada says that even Jiva Goswami's opinion is that by chanting the holy name offenselessly, one becomes completely perfect. Nevertheless, just to purify the situation of the mind, worship of the deity in the temple is also necessary. Therefore, when one advances in spiritual consciousness or is perfectly situated on the spiritual platform, he may take to the worship of Salagrama-shila. So we know that there are two types of bhaktis. One is Vaidic bhakti and another one is Sadhana bhakti. So initially, for us to concentrate, make our mind to concentrate in a proper way, so we'll follow some rules and regulations that is called as Vaidic Bhakti or Sadhana Bhakti. Sorry, this Vaidic Bhakti and Sadhana Bhakti both are similar. So when one is advanced, so when it comes to the little higher stage, so that is called as the Raganuga Bhakti, that is the spontaneous love. But for that also, we should first do our the rules which are laid, so that we can concentrate. So that's what it is said. Just to purify the situation of mind, worship of the deity in the temple is also necessary, because we can concentrate on that. Further, here it is mentioned that Okay. So further here, actually, as we have seen in the previous verse, if I'm not wrong, in the 84th verse, when Jagannatha Mishra was saying that an effulgent Lord he entered my heart and he transferred from my to Sachimata's heart. So that's what it is mentioned. So for that, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that it can be concluded that Jagannatha Mishra and Sachimata are Nitya Siddhas, ever pure associates of the Lord. And actually, in this material world also, we see there are two types. One is Nitya Siddhas and the other one is Nitya Baddhas. So Nitya Siddhas are such type of people just like Jagannath Mishra, Sachimata, Vasudeva, Devaki. So wherever they may be, they won't forget the Lord. But the other side are Nitya Baddhas. Means after coming from to this material world, we feel that we are the Lord of this material nature and we try to enjoy. So that's what the difference between Nitya Siddhas and Nitya Baddhas. And further, Prabhupada is explaining that a common man in this material world has a contaminated heart. Why he has a contaminated heart? Because he is conditioned. We know that there are 4 defects. So that is the reason he is a contaminated person. Because, and we all know that even though our soul is pure, our soul is Sachidananda Vigraha, but when it comes in association with the 3 modes of material nature, it gets contaminated. Okay, but here Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata were not common men with common hearts. So as it is mentioned. So when the heart is uncontaminated, it is said to be in the existential position of Vasudeva. Vasudeva can beget Vasudeva or Krishna, who is transcendentally situated. So we all know that actually Vasudeva and Devaki, who are none other than who came as Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata in this Kali Yuga. So they were praying for the Lord. We can say that for I think for 2 to 3 births, they were praying for the Lord that Lord should appear in their womb. I mean, they want to beget Lord as their son. So that's what further it is mentioned, that it is to be understood that Sachi Devi did not become pregnant as an ordinary woman, just as I mentioned previously, because we ordinary people, because of for enjoying the senses, we have, after that we have children. But here, no, they want to serve the Lord and they want Lord to be born as their children. So that is the difference between the pure devotees like Sachimata and Jagannath Mishra. And one can understand the pregnancy of Sachimata when one is actually advanced in spiritual consciousness and fully engaged in devotional service of the Lord. So each and every second they were praying to the Lord. So further, Prabhupada quotes a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the statement regarding the birth of Lord Sri Krishna. Just as I mentioned, the same thing when Vasudeva, who is Ananka Dundubi, so Lord was transferred. Actually, Lord Krishna appeared in the mind of Vasudeva and he was then transferred to Devaki's heart, then to the womb of Devaki. And further it is mentioned that the spiritual bliss in the mind of Devi gradually increased, just as the moon increases every night until it becomes a full moon. And at the time of his appearance, Lord Krishna came out of the mind of Devaki and appeared within the prison of the house of Kamsa by the side of Devaki bed. At that time, by the spell of Yogamaya, Devaki thought that her child had now been born. In this connection, even the demigods from the celestial kingdom were also bewildered. As it said, Muhyanti yat Suryaha. They came to offer their prayers to Devaki, thinking that the Supreme Lord was within the womb. The demigods came to Mathura from the celestial kingdoms. This indicates that Mathura is still more important than the celestial kingdom of the upper planetary system. So here we all know that why does Lord appear in this material world? It is mentioned in the 4th chapter, 8th verse of Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya sadhuna vinasaya cha dushkrita. So here, why does Lord appear in this material world is first Paritranaya sadhuna, means he wants to reciprocate with his pure devotees. Then only the secondary work which is done by the Lord is vinasaya cha dushkritam. So here this material world or Matyaloka, so here it is said that even all the demigods, they came to this material world to pay obeisances to the Lord. That is the reason in this Bhuloka, Vrindavan is considered as the very potential place where we can do our sadhana in a proper way. And further, here Prabhupada mentions that Lord Krishna as the eternal son of Yashoda Mai is always present in Vrindavan. The pastimes of Lord Krishna are continuously going on within both this material world and the spiritual world. But because people who doesn't have knowledge, they think that okay, this pastime is completed. Okay, for example, Lord Krishna appeared in Dwapara Yoga, this pastime is completed in this material. Not like that. This pastime is continuously going on because there are innumerable universes which are created by Karnodaka Sai Vishnu. So in each and every universe, Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu enters and living entities are created, and Lord also enters into that particular and he performs his pastime. So that's what it is said. And further it is said that in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 6, verse number 43, it states that when magnanimous, broad-headed Nanda Maharaj came back from tour, he immediately took his son on his lap and experienced the transcendental bliss by smelling his head. Okay, because Jagannath Mishra, who is Jagannath Mishra? Jagannath Mishra is a combination of Sutapa, Vasudeva, Nanda Maharaj. So these three combined is Jagannath Mishra. In the same way is Sacipremi also. So when he saw Lord Krishna, so he experienced the transcendental bliss by smelling his head. That's what that kind of parental affection which was found by Nanda Maharaj. So the personality of Godhead appearing as a son of a cowherd damsel is easily available and understandable to devotees, whereas those who are under the concept of bodily life, even though they are very much advanced in austerity and penance, and even though they are great philosophers, they are unable to understand him. So for this, actually in Bhagavad Gita, if I'm not wrong, in the 9th chapter, Lord says, Avajananti ma muda manushim tanumashrita. So people who are mudas, they don't understand. So when Lord appears in this material world, he doesn't have a material body like us. His body is always transcendental. So that is the difference between our body and Lord's body. So further, even Prabhupada quotes what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and even Baladev Vidyabhushan also mentioned. I'll just read main points. So it is mentioned that as the rising moon manifests light to the east, so Devaki, who was always situated on the transcendental platform, having been initiated in Krishna mantra by Vasudeva, the son of Surasena, kept Krishna within her heart. So always she was remembering Krishna when he was in her womb. So further Prabhupada says that from this statement it is understood that the Supreme Personality of Godhead have been transferred from the heart of Vasudeva, and it was manifested himself in the heart of Devaki. And further it is mentioned that the demigod says, Dishtabhya te Pukshi Gata Para Puman. Mother Devaki, the Lord is already within your womb. Therefore, that the Lord was transferred from the heart of Vasudeva to the heart of Devaki means that he was transferred to the womb of Devaki. So further, in the conclusion of this particular verse, Srila Prabhupada says that in the same way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also got transferred from the heart of Jagannath Mishra to Sacipremi. So that's what it is said, that the words Vishesha Sheva Kare Govinda Charane, they specifically began to worship the lotus feet of Govinda. So how they were worshipped? They were worshipping the Salagrama-shila. So indicates that as Krishna appeared in the heart of Devaki through the heart of Vasudeva, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also appeared to Sacipremi. So this is the mystery of appearance of the Lord. And in conclusion, Prabhupada is saying that this subject matter is a little difficult to understand, but for a devotee of the Lord, it will not be difficult to realize the statements given by Krishnadas Kaviraja Goswami, because those who don't have knowledge, so they may come to a different conclusion. So that is the reason they say that we should try to understand about the glories of the Lord only under the guidance of pure devotees. Further in the 87th verse, Haite haila garbha trayodasa masa tathapi bhumishta nahe mishrera haila trasa. In this way, the pregnancy approached in 13 months, but still there was no sign of delivery of child. Thus, Jagannath Mishra became greatly apprehensive. So generally, as it was mentioned previously, a child stays in the mother's womb maximum for 9 months, rarely for 10 months. But here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed for 13 months, and as Jagannath Mishra acted as a normal person, so he was little concerned. So why when delivery didn't take place? Okay. So further, it is said in the 88th verse, Nilambara Chakravarti Kahila Ganiyam Yei Masa Putraha Be Shubhakshana Panam. So Nilambar Chakravarti, so the grandfather of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then did an astrological calculation and said that in that very month, taking advantage of an auspicious moment, the child would take birth. So we all know that in the upcoming month, in the month of Maghamasa, so Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would appear in this material world. But before Mahaprabhu appears, even Nityananda Prabhu appears. If I'm not wrong, I think next month we'll be celebrating Nityananda Trayodasi. Okay, so after that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birth will be celebrated. So we all know that who is Nilambar Chakravarti? Nilambar Chakravarti is none other than Garga Muni. So he made a calculation saying that, so in the auspicious time, the Lord would appear in this material world. Further, Chauda Sata Sata Sake Masayi Falguna Paurnamasira Sandhya Kale Haile Subhakshana. Thus, in the year 1407 of the Shaka era, in the month of Falguna, that is February-March, in the evening of the full moon day, the desired auspicious moment arrived. Okay, so here the calculations have been given in the purport. So just we can say that Lord has time has arrived that when Lord can appear in this material world. In the 90th verse, Simharasi Simhalagna Ucha Graha Gana Sadvarga Ashtavarga Sarva Sulakshana. According to the Jyotir Veda or the Vedic astrology, the auspicious birth moment is described as follows. The moon was in Leo, that is the figure of the lion in the zodiac. Leo was the ascendant, several planets were strongly positioned, and the Sadvarga and Ashtavarga showed all the auspicious influences. So that's what Prabhupada explains also, that different astrological calculations, because see, when we come into this material world, sometimes it may be inauspicious. I mean, they say that the kids are born in some varja, means not in a proper time. But when Lord appears in this material world, even though it is an inauspicious time, it becomes auspicious. So that is the difference between our birth and Lord's birth. So here in the last part of the purport, Prabhupada is saying that on the strength of astrological calculations from the horoscope, scriptures, Nilambar Chakravarti, the grandfather of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has ascertained the auspicious moment when the Lord would appear in this material world. Akalanka Gaura Chandra Adila Darshana Sakalanka Chandra Ara Kona Prayojana. When the spotless moon of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became visible, what would be the need for a full moon of black marks on this body? I'll just read these other 4 verses, then I'll give a summary of these verses. Yeta jani rahu kaila chandrera grahana Krishna Krishna Hari Nama Bhasi Tribhuvana. Considering this Rahu, the black planet covered the full moon, and immediately vibrations of Krishna Krishna Hari inundated the 3 world. 93. Jaya Jaya Dhwani Haila Sakala Bhuvana Chamatkara Haye Loka Bhave Mane Mana. All people thus chanted the Hare Krishna Mahamantra during the lunar eclipse, and their minds were struck with wonder. Jagat Bhariya Loka Bale Hari Hari Sei Kshane Gaura Krishna Bhumi Avatari. When the whole world was thus chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna in the form of Gaura Hari advented himself on this earth. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Prasanna Haila Saba Jagatera Mana Hari Bali Hindu ke Hasya Karaya Yavana. The whole world was pleased while the Hindus chanted the holy name of the Lord. The Hindus, especially the Muslims, jokingly imitated the words. I'll just read this particular purport. Although Muslims or non-Hindus have no interest in chanting the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the Yavanas in the Navadvip imitated the Hindus as they chanted during the lunar eclipse. Thus, the Hindus and the Yavanas joined together in chanting the holy name of the Lord when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu invented himself. Okay, I'll just give a summary of these particular verses, starting from verse number 90. Yes, from 91. Okay, so Nilambar Chakravarti has given the auspicious moment when Lord will appear in this material world. So here Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying this, that what is the use of other moons? Because generally moon has many spots. We all know that when the spotless moon has appeared, that is a Gaurahari has appeared in this material world, is appearing in this material world, what is the use of other moons? So that's what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is mentioning. Even the same thing, he was saying that Rahu planet also thought, because we all know that during eclipse, why does eclipse take place? Again, it is related to the Samudra Manthan Leela. So the Rahu, so he was, we all know that story, so I don't want to go in detail. So Rahu is saying that he thinking that when Gaurahari is appearing in the material world, what is the use of the other moons? So that is the reason he covered and he covered the moon. Actually, before Mahaprabhu is about to appear, so because we all know that what is an eclipse, generally eclipse is considered as an inauspicious time, because so that is the reason they say that try to do more spiritual activities than doing the mundane activities. You are not supposed to do any mundane activities. And so we all know that actually in a Vedic society, at that time people used to either take bath in the Ganga or in the sea, and for that particular Palana time, it may be for 1 hour or whatever time it may be. So that time you should always take a advantage of chanting the name of the Lord. In that way, you have to read scriptures, do congregational chanting. So that even it was mentioned by the Acharyas that Rahu thought that, and he covered the moon, because in that way people, a whole world will be inundated with the chanting the name of the Lord. So that's what even Prabhupada explains in this particular purport also. At the time of birth of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, such a lunar eclipse took place, and naturally all the people are standing in the water were chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we all know that Kali Yuga Dharma is to chant the name of the Lord. So before Mahaprabhu appeared in this material world itself, people started chanting the name of the Lord. And we all know that in the Pastimes also that when Mahaprabhu was just like an infant, when he starts crying, when people start chanting the Hare Nama, so then he will stop crying. So that is what Mahaprabhu has inundated right from his birth or before his birth. That's what we can say. And further in the 93rd verse, it is said that all the people just chanted the Hare Krishna Mahamantra during the lunar eclipse, and their mind was stuck with wonder, because when we do with our spiritual activities, always our mind will be peaceful. But when we do our mundane activities, sometimes we may be pissed off of our activities. So in the 94th verse, so it is said that when the whole world was chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna in the form of Gaurahari appeared in this material world. And coming to the 95th verse, so this is a little important verse which Acharyas explain, saying that, I'll just read, Prasanna haila sabha jagatera mana hari bale hindu ke hasaya kareya vana. Thus the whole world was pleased while the Hindus were chanting the holy name of the Lord. The non-Hindus, especially the Yavanas, jokingly imitated the words. So here, actually Prabhupada many times he says that we should not hear from the non-believers. It is just like compared to a serpent just sipping a milk, what do you say, a cup of milk. If it is sipped by a serpent, okay, even though it just touched it, but still it is considered as a poisonous one. In the same way, the non-believers, if they chant the name of the Lord, so it is not considered as a good one in the sense, because they jokingly they chanted the name of the Lord. So we know that chanting, the people who chant the name of the Lord, there are three categories of people. The lowest one, we can say that Namabhasa. So people who chant the name with doing so many apradhas. Then comes the above that is the Namabhasa. Namabhasa means the sins, they are trying to get cleansed out of their sins, and they are trying to get elevate themselves. And above Namabhasa is the Shuddha Nama. And so Shuddha Nama, in that people will chant they are very pure. They purely chant the name of the Lord, just like Haridasa Thakura. So in this instance, I'll give one just some references from Srimad Bhagavatam and from Chaitanya Charitamrta Adilila. So before going to Chaitanya Charitamrta Adilila, I'm just quoting a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is in relation to 6th canto. So we all know that the 6th canto, 2nd chapter is related to Ajamila. So here in the purport, it is mentioned that in Namabhasa, actually, there are 4 types. So even though they are doing Nama that way, but still they are elevated, or you can consider them as more than the Nama Parada stage. So here in the translation, it is mentioned that one who chants the holy name of the Lord is immediately freed from all reactions of unlimited sins. Even if he chants indirectly to indicate something else, jokingly, for musical entertainment, or even neglectfully. So this is accepted by all the learned scholars of the scriptures. So here, when you see in this particular verse of the 13th chapter, the last verse which I spoke, here the Yavanas, so they were just imitating. Where is that verse? Okay, so here Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami is saying that while the Hindus were chanting the name of the Lord because they understand, but on the other side, those who are non-Hindus, especially the Yavanas, they were jokingly imitating the words. So even though they were jokingly imitating the words, but still that is also one kind of, it's considered as one kind of Namabhasa, and even they are also elevated. So that's what it is mentioned in the 6th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, Namabhasa can be divided into 2 types. So one kind of Namabhasa is Chaya Namabhasa, and the other one is Pratibimba Namabhasa. Okay, so the type of chanting with Ajamila did is Chaya Namabhasa. So what is the difference between Chaya Namabhasa and Pratibimba Namabhasa? So I'll give you an example. Actually, I heard in one of the lecture. So a person is sitting, okay. So when a person is sitting in the sun, okay, so you can find a shadow of him. So whatever the person does, the same thing will be done by the shadow also. Even though the shadow may not be clear, but the same thing will be done by the shadow also. So that kind of it is called as Chaya Nama Bhasa. But on the other side is what is that? Reflection. Pratibimba Nama Bhasa is, so when you stand in front of a mirror, so when you try to lift your right hand, you find that you are lifting your left hand. So that in that way, there will be a reflection. So that is called as Pratibimba Nama Bhasa. So here, what kind of chanting Ajamila did, okay, because he didn't call the Lord directly, but he was, because due to love to his son, he was calling his son Narayana. So this is considered as the Chaya Nama Bhasa, because even though he was calling his son, but Lord Narayana sent his Vishnu Dutas to take care of him. So that kind, it should be that kind of Nama Bhasa should be done by us, not the Pratibimba Nama Bhasa. So I heard in that lecture saying that Pratibimba Nama Bhasa is equal to the Nama Aparadha. We all know that the 10 offenses which we are not supposed to do in our chanting. And it is also mentioned that it is just like the Mayavada philosophers, because they try to do all the spiritual activities, but what is the main aim of their life? They want to merge with the Lord. But a person who is trying to do chanting in a pure way, who is trying, that is the Namabhasa stage, means who is trying to improve himself. So that kind of person, when he tries to elevate himself to the Shuddha chanting stage, he doesn't aim for any liberation, because it is said in Bhagavatam that Lord wants to give all kinds of liberation, but he says that, no, I don't want any type of liberation. I just want to do your service. So that is the elevation of a person from a Nama Bhasha to Shuddha Nama stage. So this is what it is quoted from, what you say, from Bhagavatam. And one more minute. Okay, so there is one more verse which I wanted to share from Antilila, Chaitanya Charitamrta Antilila. Actually, in Antilila chapter 3, which entitled saying that the glories of Haridasa Thakur. So we all know that Haridasa Thakur is entitled as Namacharya. Okay. So one day, actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Haridasa Thakur takes place from verse number 49 in chapter 3 of Antilila. So here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meets Haridasa Thakur. He discusses, he inquires about this Namabhasa only. Okay, I'll just read the main translations. So here Mahaprabhu says that in the age of Kali, most people are bereft of Vedic culture and therefore they are called Yavanas. They are considering only killing cows and Brahminical culture. In this way, they are engaging in all sinful acts. And further, he says that how will these Yavanas be delivered? To my great unhappiness, I do not see any way. So for this, actually, Haridasa Thakur replies saying that, my dear Lord, do not be in anxiety, do not be unhappy to see the condition of the Yavanas in this material existence, because they are accustomed of saying Ha Rama means, oh Lord Ramachandra, they will easily be delivered by this Namabhasa. And further, Haridasa Thakur says that a devotee in advanced ecstatic love exclaims, oh my Lord Ramachandra, but the Yamanas also chant Ha Rama, just see their good fortune. So this is what Haridasa Thakur, who is the authority of the chanting of the holy name, he says that the chanting of the Lord's holy name to indicate something other than the Lord is an instance of Namabhasa. Even when the holy name is chanted in this way, it is transcendental power. Its transcendental power is not destroyed. So this is one of the conversation which took place between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Haridasa Thakur. In this particular chapter only, there is one more very good pastime related to Namabhasa. I'll just go to that particular. It comes from verse number 170. If you all know about Gopala Chakravarti. A minute. Yes, actually, Haridasa Thakur will be invited by one of the Brahmana. So Brahmana, then Haridasa Thakur meets there Govardhan Majumdar and Hiranmaya Majumdar, who is one is the father and the other one is, elder father of Raghunath Dasa Goswami. So there, the Balram Acharya, actually he requests Mahaprabhu, Haridasa Thakura to come to the assembly. So then they'll be having a discussion, the importance of chanting the holy name of the Lord, because Haridasa Thakur will be introduced by saying that he chants the name of the Lord every day 3 lakh times. So this was the introduction given about Chaitanya Haridasa Thakura. So one of the person who works in the office of Govardhan Majumdar, called as Gopala Chakravarti. So he will say that, okay, so here it is said that by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one is freed from reactions of sinful life. Others say that simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, a living being is liberated from material bondage. So this was the conversation which was going place between the people who were present in that particular assembly. Then Haridasa Thakur protested, saying that these two benedictions are not true result of chanting the holy name. Actually, by chanting the holy name without offenses, one awakens the ecstatic love. That is the Shuddha Sattva. So further, I'll just go to that particular verse. So here, Haridasa Thakura says, so he gives many explanations. I'm not going in detail about that particular explanations. 1 minute. So when he was giving such an explanation, actually, as I said, the Gopala Chakravarti, who is an official tax collector in the house of Govardhan Majumdar, so he says that he was a very handsome man. So he had good bodily features and everything. So he says that he gets very angry on the statement of Haridasa Thakur. He says that just hear the conclusion of the emotional devotee. He was just criticizing. So he's saying that one, after millions of birth, when one is completely in absolute knowledge, one still may not attain liberation. Yet this man says that one may attain liberation simply by awakening the glimpse of holiness. Means even though he is just in the Namabhasa stage, he may get attain liberation. That's what the conclusion given by Gopala Chakravarti. So then Haridas Thakur, he is saying that why are you so doubtful? The scriptures say that one can attain liberation simply by a glimpse of offenseless chanting the holy name of the Lord. So further it is said that who wants to enjoy the transcendental bliss, liberation is most insignificant. As I mentioned previously also, a pure devotee who wants to do always the service to the Lord, he doesn't aim for any liberation. So this is what, there was a conversation between two. So then Gopala Chakravarti, he says that if one is not liberated by Namabhasa, then you may certain that I shall cut off your nose. So that is one kind of arrogant answer which was given by Gopala Chakravarti. Then Haridas Thakur, being very menial, so he accepted. He's saying that if by Namabhasa liberation is not available, he said, certainly I will cut off my nose. So Haridas Thakur was so sure that even though in the Namabhasa stage also people can attain the highest level, that is liberation. And other members, they got very angry on Gopal Chakravarti and they told him to leave the job and go away. So that kind of scenario will take place in that particular place. At end, the conclusion I just want to give. So further it is said that this is what further it is mentioned that one cannot understand the glory of the holy name simply by logic and argument. So it should be understood or experienced. So that's what it is said. And in the last conclusion, we can say that I just want to say, okay, what happened when this Brahmana, who was this Gopal Chakravarti, who spoke in an arrogant way, what happened within 3 days that Brahmana was attacked by leprosy, and as a result of his highly raised nose melted away and felt off, because Lord, he doesn't want his devotees to be, what do you say? He doesn't see if his devotees are not I mean, if people don't behave with his devotees in a proper way, so Lord is always ready to take a not a revenge. So he will teach a lesson for all his devotees. The same thing happened. So the Brahmana's toes, fingers, and beautiful like golden currant champaka buds. I mean, it were compared because he was very handsome person, but because of leprosy, everything got melted. So seeing the condition of Gopala Chakravarti, everyone was astonished. Everyone praised the influence of Haridas Thakur and offered him obeisances. Okay, so this is a conclusion which I want to give for this particular topic. So although Haridas Thakura as a Vaishnava did not take seriously the Brahmana's offense, the Supreme Personality of Godhead could not tolerate it, and thus he made the Brahmana suffer the consequences. So this is what about a pure devotee. So in conclusion, I would say that even in Namabhasa stage also, people can get elevated. So in the same way, when Hindus were chanting the name of the Lord in a serious way, so even in joking also, Yavanas were chanting the name of the Lord and they made the total environment very auspicious. Sri Gaurang Mahaprabhu ki Jai. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. If anything I spoke wrong, please correct me. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. Thank you so much for the wonderful nectar, Mataji. Thank you. Devotees, anybody is having any questions, they can ask Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you Mataji for wonderful class. So
Hare
you
Krishna.
told in the class that Jagannatha Mishra is the combination of Sutapa, then Vasudeva and Nanda Maharaj. So what is Kashyap?
Actually, Prabhu, Kashyap Muni is also there, Prabhu. I forgot to mention. He's there. It's a combination of everyone.
Okay, thank you Mataji.
Nitya Narasimha Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji. It was a nectarian class. So many take-home messages. Mataji, just it is not a question. I want clarification. Like in the purport also, Srila Prabhupada mentions about the Salagrama-shila. Like you mentioned that second initiated, Brahminical initiated devotees only can worship the Salagrama-shila. So like first initiated devotee, he cannot worship Mataji. That is a question.
Prabhu, actually, I heard many times from Bir Krishna Prabhuji saying that for doing deity worship, so you need to be Brahmanically initiated. So because then only you will know that vidhi, what we are supposed to follow, because otherwise we may commit so many aparadhas, na Prabhuji. So that is my understanding. And I saw many devotees after Brahmanical initiation only, they have taken the service of Salagrama-shila, Prabhuji. That's what.
Like in my little experience, Mataji, like whoever goes to the pilgrimages and all, they go and bring the Salagrama-shila and do the worship. Is it right way or it is not correct? That is the question.
Prabhu, I don't know about that, but I can give you a small instance which I remember. We remember about Chat Goswami's Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Okay, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, when he was told my Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go to Gandaki Nadi, so he got 12 Salagrama-shilas. Okay, so he came with Salagrama-shilas, and after that he thought that whether I can do this worship in a proper way or not, and he wanted to throw back, I mean not throw back, put them back in the river and come back. But again, Lord gave him. Okay, so maybe with pure devotees, if they think that they can do, but other than that, I don't know much about that, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, maybe
Shamsundar Prabhu is here, so
Yes.
he can enlighten us about this. Because
Yes,
he is
yes. Shamsundar Prabhuji, yes.
Hare Krishna, Shamsundar Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. I'm a little sick. I'm going to open my video.
Okay.
Okay. Prabhu, actually, Mataji said very good, correct. Worshipping Salagrama-shila only by Brahminical initiated devotees only they can do. One point. Second point, we have to get permission from Guru or senior Vaishnavas. Then only we are eligible to do. So these are the instructions given, Prabhuji. So we cannot do directly Salagrama worship, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for clarification. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. As you said, people are by own interest, they're going to pilgrimage, they're getting some Salagrama, directly they're starting worship the Salagrama. It's not advisable. We should get permission from Guru. And second also, as what I mentioned, so many aparadhas also there, without knowingly doing the Salagrama worship, so many aparadhas will be there. Yes,
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you for clarification. Yeah.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, what about Giriraj?
Giriraj also. Giriraj also. Both are same only. Giriraj worshipping as well as the Chaya worshipping, no, nothing difference both.
Shamsundar Prabhu, आपका health पूरा ठीक है ना?
Yeah, okay, getting better.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Last 1 week.
You ended it which verse, Mataji, today? Verse number?
Prabhu, I did till verse number 95, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. So thank you so much. I think no doubts further. So we will end the session here today. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Next week, same time, we will continue with the next week's speaker. Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव भक्त वृंद की जय. श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. श्रील गुरुदेव की जय. Thank you so much.
Chaitanya Mata ki jai.
Jai.